in between rounds and give you something else to talk about. And we'll be back in just a few seconds because the other top 32 matches have already concluded. I should say a few minutes, I guess. And so just stay with us for the rest of the day.
Oh, we're going straight into the top 16.
We're just going straight to the top 16. Okay, that is great news.
So guys, don't go anywhere. We're still here.
Right. So the big question is, because we didn't get a break, we don't even know who's going to be in the top 16, but I guess that information will pop up on the Skype for me, and I can fill you in. So the next match is, there we have it. We got Carlos Perez, one of the remaining Spanish players in competition, who's playing with Burning Abyss, and he goes up against Leo Guiner from France. Leo Guiner is a French player in a group together with all the good guys like Alain Lee, who are like from Paris, so they play each other every weekend, I presume, and they come together, travel together to these large events, and they always make an impact. Like, you might not see the same guys at the top of the standings at the end of the day, but one of these guys is bound to make it into the top 16. So once again, it's Leo Guiner this weekend. His opponent, Carlos Perez. I gotta say, name doesn't ring a bell yet.
No, it's a new one for me.
Well, the X Factor has been working out. So let's look at the matchups of these guys. The problem is I don't have the information who they were playing prior to that round. We can just try to find that out in the coverage, because like you guys, we're also relying on the written coverage that you can find on tcg.konami-europe.com/coverage, and if that's a little bit too hard to keep track of, you can just click on the link. So we got the top 32 decks and duelists. So there we go. We got a little bit more information now about the remaining players in the field. And if you're looking at the coverage page, you can see that there is a lot of Shadow.
That is a lot of Shadow.
Seems like 50% of the field. So Shadow, that basically means that Shadow was the right call for the weekend, because it was able to put in more numbers in the top 32 than it put into the original number of contestants.
Yeah. What's the actual percentage of that there?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's roughly 40%, 45%.
I could say is a pretty big success.
Maybe even 50%. And Paolo Pacina's deck was called Shabbos. Shadow Burning Abyss was just turned into Shabbos.
There's a reaction burn deck, do I see there?
Yes, we got definitely some interesting stuff going on here. The Exodia deck is doesn't seem to be listed there. I'm not sure why.
Did it definitely make it in, or was it?
I'm not sure. So maybe our information is misleading us. We have been chained to that table. We didn't actually leave it all day long. Yeah. We have to beg if we want to go out for a drink or something.
Yeah.
And with that, the players are already sitting down. They are unpacking. So yes, it is the first time this weekend that we're gonna just proceed with no break.
We're just going to go straight into this.
Yes, we're going to have the deck lists of both players in just a second. So once again, for you guys, it's Carlos Perez running Burning Abyss. This deck, very flexible.
Yeah, and it gets to play some of the best trap cards in the game. But the question is, are these traps that are basically one card answers one problem good enough against a deck that can create multiple problems with a single card?
The other thing that we have seen a couple of times this weekend, Burning Abyss always wants to have Dante on the field, Traveler of the Burning Abyss, and that is just an invitation for Shadows to go crazy with Shadow Fusion, the signature card of the deck.
Yeah, a free fusion, and unfortunately both Dante and all of the Burning Abyss monsters play into the Super Polymerization, which has been the really hot card for this weekend.
Yes, that is one of the questions. Do you run 0 copies of Super Polymerization in your main deck? Do you run one of them as a silver bullet against certain decks, or do you even run 3 of them like players like Umut Seren have done, who only dropped 1 game in the Swiss rounds? Speaking of hot tech and deck lists, as you just saw, we got the deck lists here with us. One of them is in French. I'm going to hand that over to you now.
Okay, well, I can do the best I can.
Right. So once again, one of the questions is, do we have a Mathematician or an Armageddonite, or both of them? Well, Leo Guiner went with 3 copies of Mathematician in his Shadow deck and 2 copies of Armageddonite. That's something we have been talking about quite a few times this weekend.
Yep.
He's also got the Black Dragon Collapse Serpent and the White Dragon.
The Wyvern Burster.
The Dragon Blanc. And other than that, it looks like a pretty straightforward Shadow build to
Yeah,
me.
there's nothing there that's incredibly standout.
Well, I mean, we've had Shadow decks with 0 copies of Sinister Shadow Games today. This one is maxing out on that card. It plays 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill, 2 copies of Trap Stun.
Trap Stun's a card we've not seen this
Definitely
weekend.
interesting. And the 3 copies of Vanity's Emptiness. One of the cards that just turned from a silver bullet. Some people were running 1, some people were running 2. Back like a while ago, now everybody's running 3. So let's run you through this once again. Shadows trying to come up with their big fusion monsters, flip Vanity's Emptiness. They just build a field, tell the opponent, handle it. When he tries to handle it, flip Vanity's Emptiness, win the game.
It's, yeah, basically, the way the deck works is it creates a problem, and when you deal with it, the problem just gets worse. Because it's like,
right.
It's like a fire that just keeps getting
It's
out
like
of
a
control. You're
pandemic,
like,
yeah.
okay, I'll just chuck water. Oh no, now it's spreading, and there's more fusions and stuff going on.
So our, I don't want to say remaining, but one of the few remaining Spanish representatives for all you guys at home. This is really the only good excuse that you have for not being here in Madrid. You're just watching the stream all day long. He is running, like we said before, Burning Abyss. Also Mathematician. He doesn't run Armageddon Knight. Other than that, we see no surprises there, or do we? There's a Dimensional Prison, 2 copies of Dimensional Prison.
Very good against Shadows in
yes,
the main
1
deck.
copy of Compulsory Evacuation Device.
Yep.
Raigeki Break, 2 copies. Torrential Tribute in the main deck.
Solemn Warning.
Yep. So
he has 2 copies of Rank Up Magic, 2...
and he's playing
Mystical
Supply
Space Typhoon.
Squad, 2 copies of that. So that is definitely going to be interesting.
Okay, so he's playing the Supply Squad and Rank Up Magic, as opposed to one or the other. And there is an Allure of Darkness, and one card that I can't understanding. I'm not understanding is this one here.
All right. We're going to find out for you. So the players are sitting down. We are ready to get started. Once again, we will have the contents of their hands for you. Leonine on the right-hand side, starting with 2 copies of the signature card Shadow Fusion, which are going to serve him well in that match. I'm predicting it. I'm calling it right here and then. We got Foolish Burial, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, and Vanity's Emptiness.
That's an excellent start. A Foolish Burial can get a lot of action going immediately. Shadow Fusion being very good, even if he's going second.
So let's, rather than showing you the hand, which is just a Rise of the Storm Monarch for Carlos Perez, let's go with his field, because he was opening the game with a Skarm, Malebranchev, the Burning Abyss.
For every time I called it Scram today, the OP manager threatened to hit me, so it's Skarm, Mystical Space Typhoon, Vanity's Emptiness, Fiendish Chain, and in his hand he has a Rise of the Storm Monarch and Dimensional Prison. And the Rise is going to come down pretty quickly and set Leo back a turn. And he's coming out pretty strong. Carlos is coming out pretty strong on this. Main deck Riser, that's something we've not seen a lot of in Burning Abyss.
Yeah, definitely an interesting choice, but as we can see right here, it does work. And the thing is, it's not special summoned, which is the most important thing.
Yep, so this makes a Shadow Fusion. Blackluster Soldier, Squamata is kind of the only fusion you play you're going to get off of this. He has drawn a Tour Guide. Oh, he's adding the Tour Guide from the Skarm.
Yes, he's adding it to his hand, so it's not going to see play. So suddenly, Leo's hand that seemed that good is a lot worse, but he's just going with the not-so-free fusion.
Straight into Vanity's Emptiness, I predict. Unless he lets that one go, because he has got Dimensional Prison, Fiendish Chain, so he might hold it for a more clutch moment later.
When the fusion would be free.
Yeah.
And also, if he doesn't flip it now, it's kind of telling Leo, yes, I don't have anything to stop it. I think this certainly seems like the right call. Yes.
Gives himself the best number of answers later on in a more clutch position. While there's so many cards in the game, using one of your most powerful cards straight off the bat means you have no access to it later. And you're going to be seeing Dragon harassing the back row very, very soon.
But this is very, very interesting. Yesterday we had a match where Susie White was playing with a Lightsworn deck. She sided into Debunk. There was a situation where the Mermail deck that she was going up against was actually going for discard effects, and she could have either used the Abyss Dweller on her field or the Debunk, and she kept them both. She was like, no, I want to wait for the right moment. Well, that moment never came.
And we just saw Vanity's Emptiness being sniped at a 25% chance. which is incredibly unfortunate. It was it could have paid off really well to
Yes.
hold that Vanity's Emptiness back. It's probably the right play. In any other of those cards were picked, he'd have the Vanity's Emptiness for the second Shaddoll Fusion.
Yes.
Okay,
So
Dimensional Prison, which is also an answer to the construct.
So yeah, I think it's also a question of what do you think that your opponent's mindset is? Is he going to go for well, the big question is what is he going to go for when he's fusion summoning?
At this point, as long as Carlos is not leaving extra deck monsters in play, he is dictating exactly what his opponent has access to. And the Leo now has Shaddoll Fusion, Foolish Burial, Vanity's Emptiness. He can Foolish Burial Shaddoll Falco and get Falco back, which would then give him the chances to get a Shaddoll Fusion.
Right.
But I'm not sure. He's in a pretty bad place here. I mean, even if he flips...
Yeah, it's the tour guide. So he's not... well, that's interesting. I mean, that's interesting. Do you want to flip Vanity's Emptiness?
Considering how low his life points are...
Yeah, that's probably the reason.
But the Shaddoll Fusion, he's denying himself free access to that card. But it could have... If he rolls the dice, and then Dante comes up and turns into Constella Pallades, then he's actually creating more problems for Leo by not stopping this. What's that? Fiendish Chain. Yeah, here we are, Fiendish Chain again. Still
once
a
again,
great card.
Fiendish Chain. It's still a card.
That leaves Leo with not very many life points. So he's going to have to use his Foolish Burial here.
Yeah, so Leo is sitting in a pretty tough position.
And the Foolish Burial will turn off the Vanity's Emptiness, which is very important, especially when Carlos has a tour guide of the Underworld in his hand. Leo just a Shaddoll Fusion, which he can't play because he controls an Earth monster, and even if he gets Falco, that will give him an Earth and a Dark monster.
Right.
Okay, so just Carlos cutting Leo's deck.
So Carlos draws, and he finds...
is that Blackluster Soldier?
It looks like a Blackluster Soldier, yes. He first starts with a tour guide.
It is Blackluster Soldier.
It is Blackluster Soldier. That just concludes the first game
Yep.
in convincing fashion for Carlos Perez, who, once again, a Monarch, overcoming the Shaddoll deck.
Yeah, it was a single Monarch as well that caused all of these problems. It set Leo back an entire turn from the start, and then forces out the Shaddoll Fusion. He gets lucky. Best case scenario for him
that
to
is true, yes.
take out the Vanity's Emptiness, and then loses out to the rest of the back row, which in this case, Dimensional Prison and Ryza. Just so...
It's just so interesting.
So strong.
Do you expect your opponent to go for that particular fusion that can tear apart your back row, or do you just roll the die, expect him to go for something else?
Well, the only other fusion he could have made is Winder, and Winder is smaller than Ryza, so even if he makes the other option, which he couldn't do because all he had was a light monster and a dark monster in his hand, so he's forced to make the construct. And he's playing it into back row, and he's like, okay, my opponent's playing Burning Abyss. There's a chance that he's going to play any kind of discard trap anyway.
Right.
So he makes the best of it, but he cannot get into that game.
Yeah. Well, in the end, it didn't really matter for Carlos, so because he still came out successful. But interesting that two different paths could have led to the same conclusion here.
Okay, so cards in the side deck that we might see play. We've got a for Carlos. We have a DD Crow, Maxi,
2 copies of Maxi.
Two copies of Maxi, Neospacian Grammole, a
Thunder King.
Thunder King Ryo, 2 No More Cross Out, not so good. Pulling the Rug, not so good. Full House, not so good. That's not Kyberman. That is
Habilidao Rompedora.
Rompedora.
Sounds a little like Malevolent Catastrophe.
Yeah, that's actually very, very likely, which is potentially very good.
I want to see that card just so we can announce on the stream that Habilidao Rompedora is getting played.
Well, it's not so good against Shaddoll, which is probably not paying lots of back row.
So 2 copies of Karma Cut, 1 Needle Sealing, interesting, and 2 copies of Chain Disappearance. Well, Needle Sealing is an all-star against Infernity.
It's also very good against... I would say it's very good against Burning Abyss, but then you just trigger all of their effects. So it's It can be if timed correctly, if your opponent's already used these once per turn effects.
Yes.
Maybe Satellar Knights, because the idea is that you control 2 guys, your opponent plays Altair, puts the 4th one on, and then you clear his out and all your guys activate.
Right. On the other hand, we got Leo, who's got access to 1 copy of Thunder King Ryo. He's got 1 super polymerization in his side deck. He already plays 2 in the main deck. I think all of these are gonna get introduced.
Yeah, super polymerization, very, very effective against
He's got
Carlos.
2 copies of Lila there, which is also interesting.
Lila's pretty good as well against, even if it gets Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, next turn it's got another opportunity to threaten the back row of Carlos.
Then we got 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, 1 Trap Stun, 3 Chain Disappearance, 2 Riser, the Storm Monarch. That would be funny
I think he's probably gone in with all 3.
if he's trying to fight back with Riser just after he lost the first game because of Riser. And 2 copies of Twister to...
I'll shut down Vanity's Emptiness in the chain.
Yes. So, very
I've
interesting.
actually got the deck lists back to front, so I kept confusing who is who. I have to have them like as we see them on the screen.
So both players with plenty of options to turn this game around, aren't they?
Yeah, okay, so the hands are loading in, and Leo's taking the first turn. He had a Shadol Squamata, Shadol Falco, Chain Disappearance, very good, Super Polymerization, and Sinister Shadow Games. That's a very good start, and being able to Super Polymerize his opponent's first turn Tour Guide could be incredibly powerful here.
Yes. Speaking of the tour guide, Carlos's hand for the first turn.
Yeah, is 2 Tour Guides in the Underworld, 1 Vanity's Emptiness, DD Crow, Neospacing Grandma, which is excellent at taking out Shadol Fusions, and a Dimensional Prison, which is again another safe way of taking those fusions out without giving back the Shadol Fusion.
So a lot of sideboarding action was going on here. The Soul DD Crow got introduced, of course. We also see the Neospatian Grand Mole, which was a one-off in the sideboard, of course.
Okay, so he's not going for Skarm here. He's okay. Chain Disappearance. That's going to be a very effective option. He elected to not use that on the Tour Guide, I don't believe.
I don't think so either.
No,
yes.
he's taking out the Burning Abyss monsters.
That is interesting. Is that the better move?
I don't actually know. Unless Carlos has anticipated this Chain Disappearance, which is why he's gone for Graph. Taking out the Tour Guides takes a lot of steam out of the Burning Abyss deck when it can't constantly threaten the rank 3 plays. But then taking out Burning Abyss monsters also lowers the impact of Tour Guide in general, and also denies Carlos the ability to search his deck for more Burning Abyss monsters.
So the tour guide with no fear is attacking
Into Sinister Shadow Games. That's actually interesting. Yeah, well, he doesn't have a response in his opponent's turn which could negate the effect. So as opposed to just sitting back if he had a Fiendish Chain saying, okay, if you flip your Hedgehog, I can answer it. If he knows his opponent's going to get the effect either way, and he'd rather his opponent didn't have the monster. And if he... Yep. We're going to see Shadol Falco being flipped up, which sets a card face down.
Right.
Shadol Beast. And that's going to start allowing Leo to turbo through his deck. He's got a Shadol Squamata in hand already to discard with that Shadol Beast.
Right, and we see that Carlos is calling over a charge, and he confirms how the effect of Shadol Falco is working.
I believe he's asking about the timing in this issue, because he's got a DD Crow in hand. And he wants to know if it's a damage step issue, I expect. In which case he won't be able to respond to DD Crow.
Yes.
Well, with DD
Crow would be really strong in this situation.
Yeah, he'd be able to take the beast out of the game, so the Falco won't actually have a target. But he's not going to be able to do that because it is in the damage step. So at least that's what I think the question is.
Yeah. So yes, the judge explained to him. Probably just said damage step, which is very often the case when it comes to these questions, which is interesting because it's giving away, well, that Carlos has some kind of interaction to Leo. I'm not sure if he thinks of, okay, there's going to be DD Crow. I'm not sure if I would go that far, but he definitely knows that there's something that Carlos can do to interact with graveyard interactions. from Leo's side.
Yeah, even just the type of questions that get asked to judges can give away a huge amount of information, even if it's completely unintentionally. And here we are. We're going to see a Shadow Beast being flipped, Squamata being discarded, and then Squamata sending Shadow Dragon to the graveyard, which then takes out another one of the back row cards. This is looking really good for Leo right now.
Yes, his chain disappearance was a good start, and after that he followed it up with great plays to shut down Carlos's combos, and now he's sitting in a great spot.
Yeah, he has a Super Polymerization face down on the field, and in his hand he's got 2 Armageddon Knights and another Shadow Falco.
So he's not gonna run.
That was probably not an Armageddon Knight. My apologies. It was a Wivebuster.
Yeah, but as you can see on the right-hand side, we have been fed that information.
Oh no, he probably just drew the Wivebuster and it wasn't added.
Yeah, straight made it to the field, which makes perfect sense. So there's the Vanity's Emptiness.
That's interesting. It's to stop a Synchro Summon here, but he's going to lose his Vanity's Emptiness
right
to
away
slow
again.
his opponent down.
That is very interesting, and Leo can simply go for it in main phase too.
Just going to check the number of stars on Shadow Beast. Is definitely 5, yeah.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So he had 5, 6, 7, plus 4. Star Eater? Or probably something like that. Yeah, he's just... We're going to see a Synchro Summon in main phase 2. Goyo Guardian.
Our friend Goyo Guardian, yes.
Yeah, it was either that or
yeah,
Arcanite
everybody
Magician.
was missing the card. So Carlos is holding on to his DD Crow here, which couldn't really help him so far.
It's going to get to a point where it's too late to make a difference.
Yes.
It's the problem with these cards that are so effective at very specific situations. If your opponent can keep applying pressure, you end up too late to be good. Neo-Spacian Grandmal, no, another tour guide. There's a Super Polymerization face down.
Just waiting for that, yes.
So he could, depending on which monster is special summoned.
Well, one of the Burning Abyss monsters has been removed or banished for good, so he has to go with another option.
Yeah, so here, the way that Skarm will activate in the end phase to add a card to Carlos's hand, Carlos doesn't have any way of interacting with his opponent during Leo's turn, so Super Polymerization of those two would be incredibly powerful, but he's, again, Leo doesn't know this, so he doesn't want to give up his, commit to something that could get, cause his opponent to make a massive comeback.
Yes.
This is why you should, if you're going to set cards, not do it until main phase 2, because you give away so much information about how you can deal on your opponent's turn if they respond.
Yes. So Dante once again is going to travel a bit, and what he's going to see is a Dimensional Prison, Riser that gets sent to the graveyard, and Burning Abyss monster, right?
Yep. The Burning Abyss monster, that means he's doubling up on his Skarms, which means he's not going to be able to... He's only going to be able to activate one of them in the end phase. He's used his normal summon.
So Dante is attacking, and Leo looking at the Super Polymerization, just deciding
Not yet.
whether to discard a card or not. He decides against it, takes the damage. Well, I mean, his Goyo Guardian is 2,600, if I'm not mistaken.
2,800.
800 even.
It's
Yes.
massive.
So it can attack over Dante. What is... Yeah, Leo's going to ask, like, what is Carlos going to do from stopping me attacking over that guy and just adding it to my side of the field so he can put a little bit of work for me.
And still Super Polymerization face down for Leo, and he's just looking for the clutch moment.
Yes.
Oh,
well,
there we go.
That is interesting because Carlos was ending his turn. Leo sees this is my opportunity to go all in, and well, it's not much of an all in because it seemed like the odds were heavily favoring him in that situation. So he just goes for the Super Polymerization at the end of his opponent's turn, and Carlos sees the writing on the wall and immediately accesses his side deck.
Yeah, he's not getting out of that.
So yeah, the side deck card did actually make quite the difference in the second game. We saw DD Crow, that is a good card, but if the right moment never appears early enough, you're going to be stuck with one dead card in your hand, and that cost Carlos, or at least that's one possibility why Carlos was losing that game.
And the chain disappearance coming in coming into this from the side deck, really causing problems when that first tour guide play got shut down.
Yes. So tour guide was, I mean, as always, it's a powerful card, but all the tour guide plays were like negated by Leo. He always had a good answer for them.
Yeah, each of the ones we saw, there was an answer, and he was always sitting on the super polymerization, just looking for that right moment to
Yes. So the
lock the game out.
big question is, who is favored in the third game?
Well, here the interesting thing is that Carlos gets to go first, and again, those chain disappearances, if they won't be accessible to Leo to block the first tour guide play. So that first one, if Carlos starts with it, is definitely going through.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, a card that I absolutely love in Burning Abyss that we've not seen any play of this weekend, and these players are a lot better than myself, so I don't want to question, but Prometheus, King of the Shadows, a very old card that is a normal summon, very late stage of the game finisher. You have about 9, 10 dark monsters in your graveyard, you banish a lot, gain 400 attack for each one. You're coming in with like a 5,200 attack normal summon monster.
That would be an epic way to seal the deal.
And it attacks straight through Construct and puts a lot of damage into your opponent. And I was also in internal testing also playing Dark Eruption so I could aggressively play Dante's effect and just get back tour guides that I'd sent to the graveyard. Because a lot of people we've seen are being very conservative with their Dante effects to sending cards to the graveyard because they don't want to send away tour guides. But I've been actively playing cards to allow me to be more aggressive, triggering them multiple effects, and then using Prometheus to close out the game. So if you guys at home that are testing, perhaps that's something it might be worth a dabble for you.
Both players shaking hands prior to the third and deciding duel. So much is on the line because if you win this match, you're going to be in the top 8 profiles. And forever and ever, you will show up when somebody's looking for you on Google. You will be like top 8 of YCS Madrid, which makes all the difference because if you're top 16 or top 32, you might only pop up in the standings.
Yep, and you will literally get stopped in the street, and people will say, "Hey, you're that guy who made top 8 in Madrid," and you'll be like, "Oh no, I get this all the time."
Yeah, I remember.
I can't go anywhere.
Yeah, it definitely helps if you're playing polymerizations, for example, in your main deck.
Yeah, that's a definite way to leave a mark. Carlos taking the first turn. He has hit that turn 1 tour guide, and he has a Riser, Foolish Burial, Allure of Darkness, and Graf Malebranche of the Burning Abyss to start. His opponent has a Super Polymerization, White Dragon Wyvern Buster, which he can't use until he gets a Dark Monster in his graveyard, Shadow Beast, and Trap Stun. So Allure of Darkness being the first play for Carlos. I know there was some discussion about Allure because all of the Burning Abyss monsters are so good that players don't want to banish them.
Yeah, but you get to see 2 more cards in your deck.
Well, this is where the arguments came in,
yeah.
because it's like, I want to see more cards, but I don't want to give up any of these cards. Turn 1 tour guide, no Effect Veiler in sight for Leo. He doesn't play Effect Veiler, so there's no way that was going to happen, but let's see, where does he go? He considers what his opponent could be starting with, and elects to go Graf, compared to most people that tend to go for Skarm very first turn.
So we had this in the match before when we were talking about chain disappearance, that it's so much better when you're going first rather than going second. Is there a chance that Leo has sided out that card just to avoid that situation?
There's a high probability that he has actually taken it out. It would have been definitely a very serious consideration I would have made if I was sitting in his position.
So Dante is making an appearance. Obviously,
Carlos being very aggressive to Dante. This is how I like to play Dante. And he sent Rank Up Magic Astral Force
DD Crow
to the graveyard.
and a Raigeki Break. So that is very, very interesting because it gives away quite a bit for Leo. So we know that the DD Crow stayed in the main deck, which seems like a pretty good decision in my opinion. But he's only running 1, so that is gone. Leo, of course, doesn't know that he's only running 1. But what are the odds that somebody's running more than 1 copy of that card?
Yeah, especially in a deck like Burning Abyss, where you don't have room to put those cards in.
Yeah.
But the Rank Up Magic Astral Force going to the graveyard, I will bring that up because we haven't actually seen it played.
Yes.
Oh, well, I can't actually bring it up because it's in the graveyard, but it will allow him to turn his Dante into Constellar Pleiades, which is incredibly powerful against Shadow. But the Super Polymerizations are going to be very, very important.
So this is the field that Carlos passed with, the Dante that you can obviously see, as well as the Skarm. and he's got a Vanity's Emptiness and a Foolish Burial face down. The Vanity's Emptiness is once again the difference maker, in my opinion, because otherwise that Dante on the first turn is really not a good move against Shadows.
Yeah, giving your opponent a free fusion summon is just terrible. And there's also, with the prevalence of super polymerization, you're giving your opponent a light monster for a construct play.
Yes.
The fortunate thing with Burning Abyss is Dante then replaces himself.
Right, in case you're wondering why you're seeing us rather than the players on the table, there was a short interference because Sleeve seemed to be slightly damaged, but it happened while the card was put on the table, so no ill will there. And the Sleeve got replaced, as always, quick and efficiently. And so Leo just passed. Let's look at his field.
Yeah, Leo, we have that up on screen. We have a Shaddoll Dragon, Mystical Space Typhoon, Super Polymerization, Trap Stun. Trap Stun could be pretty key here in stopping Vanity's Emptiness or any very clutch Phoenix Wing Windblast that may be drawn. I imagine Carlos is now considering, does he use Ryza, tributing the Skarm? Oh, there it is.
What would you target here? Do you target the monster?
Almost certainly, because if your opponent hasn't hit Shaddoll Fusion, you don't want to attack into a Shaddoll Hedgehog.
There we go.
And there's so much chainable stuff. Your opponent could flip Sinister Shadow Games. Okay, so yeah, he's forcing a super polymerization. Carlos is going to be unable to respond to this.
Yes. But that super polymerization really saved Leo there, right?
Well, it allows him to get an effect, get his effects out of it, and
the other thing is, like, he would be like slowing down.
Yeah, he'd lose an extra turn if he didn't do this.
Yeah, so it seems like the only right option. And Vanity's Emptiness got shut down. Ah, yeah, now we got it. So he's going for the fusion monster, taking out the Vanity's Emptiness. This is actually huge for Leo, isn't it?
This is a huge turn, and the Ryza, which should have been a dominating force in game one,
suddenly, like, once again, super polymerization makes all the difference, causes a big shift in momentum. And even though it's Carlos's turn and he's supposed to be stepping on the gas pedal, he's suddenly like, oh my god, I have to find a way to not, like, run with 100 miles per hour into that wall that just appeared in front of me in form of a fusion monster.
Yeah, and he's given up his normal summons. That Neo-Spacian Grand Mole is going to be unusable this turn to take out the construct, because it would be a perfect answer if he still had access to his normal summon.
Yes.
This changes everything.
Carlos twitching a little bit when he looks at his graveyard, whereas Leo seems somewhat relaxed. He's like, yeah, this is all looking really good for me. And now he's also confirming the contents of the graveyard. There's another tour guide being searched out, also indicating the end of turn. And it's going to be up to Leo again, isn't it?
Yep. He's going to sit on the Foolish Burial to force his opponent to play around him imaginary cards at the moment, which is Phoenix Wing Windblast, Karma Cut, or maybe a Vanity's Emptiness. He could be sending telegraphing to his opponent, but even if he was, Leo has Mystical Space Typhoon and Trap Stun.
Right, so what is Leo going to do here? He's definitely going to attack, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he's making a decision. Does he commit more cards to the field?
And, well, he does.
He's going to make a Synchro Summon. Leo, was it right?
Is Leo going
10.
for Leo?
Leo going for Leo. There you are. He's played himself.
Oh my god. I don't even know how to sell this.
I think it speaks for itself pretty loudly. So Leo winning with Leo would be a great morale boost.
So we got Leo, Keeper of the French
Keeper
Pride.
of the Sacred Tree.
No, we got Leo, Keeper of the French Pride, special summoning Leo, Keeper of the Sacred Tree. That is what I want to make out of it. And then he goes for a big attack here.
This is huge.
Yeah, this is a huge swing, not just in momentum, but mostly in life points. And Leo is sitting in a very good position with that field that we have there. He's still got a Trap Stun. He's still got a Mystical Space Typhoon. So it's very little that Carlos can do to come back in that situation. He drew into a Ryza, which I think is not helping here, is it?
He can't target the Leo, so even if he activates Foolish Burial, sends Graf away, special summons a Burning Abyss monster, tribute summons for the Riser, he can only take out one of the Serpents, and that doesn't actually deal with anything. But he has got access to Neo-Spacian Grand Maul.
Yeah,
but then
again, he's not. He's just buying some time, which is not really helping.
Well, if he plays Neo-Spacian Grand Maul, attacks into the Leo, Foolish Burials Graph to get something to defend himself with, and then maybe special summon make Dante is a possible play, but I will leave the plays to Carlos.
Well, the thing is, like, what is he thinking? His opponent has 2 back row cards. What is his other option? Going for Tour Guide. Well, what's the best that Tour Guide can do in that particular situation? So let's bring up the Tour Guide once again. When it was first released, it was one of the most dominant cards played in every deck. Back then, rank 3s were a big deal. Yeah. Nowadays, we see some extra decks that don't have any space for rank 3s.
Okay, so he realizes that if he uses his normal summon on Tour Guide and his opponent flips Vanity's Emptiness or another Super Polymerization, he's picking up his cards and going home.
Yes.
In the top 16. So he has to consider that this is...
and it works, the Grand Mode. Once again, side deck card making quite an impact. He now knows that his opponent, Leo, doesn't really seem to have a way to stop a summon, stop an attack either. So
he's considering Sir or Graph, I imagine, depending on what's there. He has spotted the... he does have a Dante in the graveyard, so if he sends a Seer, Malabranch to the Burning Abyss to the graveyard, he can get back the Dante.
Yes, if you are...
yeah, if he sends Graph, he can't use a special summon effective Graph.
If you are rooting for Leo Guinet, this is definitely the right way, the right time to once again call Allez le Bleu. But it looks like the Frenchman is not actually needing that much support. He's sitting in pretty good shape right there, with a good field, and the trap stun. That, I mean, if Carlos wants to come back, usually it involves the trap card. So the trap stun is gonna be proving key at some point later in that match, maybe.
Okay, so Seer not bringing back Dante, but rather bringing back Skarm.
So that seems like damage control, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got 2,000 defense, which would be enough to keep his opponent out of his life points. So I'll bring that one up when I have it available. The 2,000 defense very relevant against the Leo's Filled. Here we go. Just bring that one up here.
So Leo once again checking his face down cards. I mean, Carlos by now should also know that Leo does not have another Super Polymerization, because
well, he
didn't want to lose his Leo to an attack from Grand Mole.
Well, he hasn't used the effective Graph this turn, I don't believe. Yeah, just confirming that. He could have played the Tour Guide into Super Polymerization, but then he wouldn't have been able to deal with the Leo. If he tries it in main phase 2 and his opponent does have Super Polymerization, yes, he loses the game, but... Well, he would lose the game either way, but this way he takes out the Leo, which is certainly his best option. No, he can't use any more of the cards in his hand, which is Tour Guide from the Underworld, Riser, and Neo-Spacian Grand Maul. And... he makes a Fortune Tune, I think it is. Very interesting card that I will bring up for you guys. Number 49, Fortune. It's... like Wind Up Zen Mines, as it has to be destroyed multiple times, and during each standby phase it gives life points back, and interestingly enough it actually shuffles cards back into the deck, allowing more Tour Guide use. So Carlos walling up, first time we've seen this one in a feature match, I believe. Well, it's the first time we've seen it on the stream.
Yes, definitely.
This weekend.
We haven't seen that many number monsters, to be honest.
No, considering how important they are for the Zexal universe, we see number 101 a whole lot. And Big Eye back in the day, we saw a lot of that.
Yep.
Needs more Utopia.
Needs more Utopia. Alright, so Carlos, is he considering to bring it out in face-up attack or face-up defense?
It's got to be defense, and it is a light monster, which carries a risk, and is also making his opponent, giving his opponent a very live Shaddoll Fusion.
Yes.
Perhaps some would have considered not playing... Well, had he not made an Exi summon, his opponent has Super Polymerization with 2 of his monsters.
Yep.
But he denies Shaddoll Fusion. We've seen one Super Polymerization go through, but I haven't seen any Shaddoll Fusion this game. So the more likely case is that Shaddoll Fusion is going to come up. And Leo, if he draws Shaddoll Fusion, can't activate it because he doesn't have any cards in his hand to discard.
Right.
So playing around the Shaddoll Fusion, perhaps a better play?
Well, the interesting thing is, like, Carlos has 3 more cards in hand, but none of them are doing anything at this point in time because
All
he
normal
doesn't have a
summons.
normal. Yes, he does need his normal summons, and he's given it up for this turn. So the earliest Carlos can do something again, because he basically he's forced to pass at this point, is on his following turn. So this is Leo's opening.
Leo's got a good chance. I mean, he's got 2 level 4s on the field, which gives him access to a lot of his extra deck monsters, like Castel to just straight away take out the Fortune, but that will trigger Graf, and Graf can then get another monster to protect him.
Right.
The Graf is actually a card that it feels like from the discussions has been a bit underrated in how it can be used very defensively to make something immediately out of nothing, even when it's detached as a material.
Right. So we have once again a judge call on the field. It is about the effects of number 49 Fortune Tune. I got it right here. We can bring it up on the screen again for you guys. So it says during each of your standby phases gain 500 life points, which could be very relevant. And it cannot be targeted by card effects. If the face-up card would be destroyed, you can detach 1 exceed material from this card instead.
Oh, I didn't realize it couldn't be targeted.
Yes, and well, when it is sent from the field to the graveyard, target 2 level 3 monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them both into the deck, and if you do, return this card from your graveyard to the extra deck.
Oh,
And
okay.
so plenty of effects going on here, and all of them interacting with the Burning Abyss monsters.
It might have been a translation issue, actually, because Fortune isn't a card you see very often.
Ah, yes. Well, so Leo's best bet to work around that card is obviously Super Polymerization, isn't it?
Super Polymerization, I believe that targets.
Um,
Is it target
no,
one more super controls?
Fusion doesn't target.
Super Poly doesn't target? Okay.
Aye.
Because it uses an opponent's monster.
No, Fusion summoning doesn't have a target.
Ah, right, okay. So yeah, it's non-target. Okay, so
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think fusions were designed before targeting effects.
Sorry, yeah, well, sorry, it's one of those things that just,
Yeah,
it's
been a while.
despite working on Yu-Gi-Oh! Full time, there's still things that you have to look up if you don't have
Yeah.
card text directly in front of you.
I'm very familiar with that. People keep asking me about what I think about a certain set, and I reply, well, I translated it 3 months ago. I don't remember any card, to be honest, because I'm already sitting on the next one.
Yeah, you're working because you work so far ahead.
Yeah. It's the same when you're testing. You have no idea, or well, you have a certain idea, or think you have an idea. Let's put it that way. How it is going to play out, but then someone in the community surprises you, comes up with a unique trick that you've never thought of, and well, that changes everything basically. But what's happening here? So Carlos lost his exceed materials, which is not a big deal for him, triggering the effects of the Burning Abyss monsters, bringing back Dante, whereas Leo, on the other hand, went for an exceed summon.
It's Castel,
Yeah.
which I'll pull up for you guys. The Musketeer, we've seen him a couple of times this weekend. Taking out the Dante, which is really good for him because in the graveyard of Carlos, he does have a rank up magic, so he would have been able to rank up magic and play not play Torguide, sorry, and play Riser, which would allow him to make Constellar Pleiades and a Monarch, which sets Leo back a turn. And between the two of them, that's a 2-turn. Right, that's 3 turns, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
no,
but
two,
still, like
three. No, it's
the
just
big
2
thing
turns,
we
yeah.
talked about last turn of Carlos was like he needs his normal summons. Well, he does have one again, and it can make all the difference now.
He's drawn another Torguide, so he has only one of those cards this turn in his hand is live. Oh, he's drawn a Breakthrough for skill, sorry.
Yes.
He had
He was
Torguide,
searching it.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. He was searching it for the Burning Abyss monster that was sent to his graveyard. And he also went up on 4,300 life points, courtesy of his number monster on the field. So now he is using his normal summon, and Leo once again checking his face down cards, but they don't do anything.
No, Mystical Space Marine traps are no good if your opponent has no spells or traps, which is very out of character for a Burning Abyss deck.
Yes, so let's see what Carlos can assemble here. what? Basically, he's got all the options, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got his whole rank 3, all of his rank 3 options. And if he can get Dante through his opponent's turn, he has the rank up magic Astral Force in his graveyard to make Constellar Pleiades, which is just so good against Shaddoll, because after the summon resolves, you can just return it as a quick effect back to your opponent's hand.
And the other thing is, like, he was able to attack with his Grand Mode into Leo's Leo, and that worked just well. So he shouldn't have any fear right here, right?
If he, yeah, well, if there was an attack response that
was
Leo could have
that
used,
was the moment to use it.
protecting his Leo would have allowed him to close the game out.
Yeah.
And
exactly. I need to save my deck master, but well, that didn't really work out. So once again we see the Travel of the Burning Abyss, who's never getting tired apparently. He made it through all the 9 different stages of hell, as far as I'm aware, and he's still traveling. And it looks a little, from the way that Carlos is like going through his options, that he's about to cause a big swing here.
While that may look a little bit depressing for Carlos to send 3 trap cards to the graveyard, he's actually just made sure his next 3 cards aren't interfered with by trap stun.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that he's sad about that's actually worked out in his favor.
The breakthrough skill got taken down by the Mystical Space Typhoon. Leo draws for his turns, finds a Mathematician from the top of his deck.
This is pretty good, because he can get Shaddoll Falco online here. If he has any left. It's been such a long duel, I can...
Let's see if he agrees with you there.
Oh, it's Armageddon Knight. He's thinning his deck of draws that he doesn't want to have, as opposed to actually using it to gain any kind of bonus effect. He's just taking out cards that he can't afford to draw at this stage. So number 49 is going to put some Burning Abyss monsters back into Colossus' deck for more tour guide.
Yeah, so Leo might have gone with what we see frequently on the series, where like you're losing your numbers, but in that situation it's actually not that helpful, is it?
Yeah, well, he's putting a tour guide back and another monster.
Yeah, and that is gonna be a very live card in his deck.
Yeah, well, the Burning Abyss deck wants to play Tour Guide as much as possible. In a very early build, I was actually testing Tour Bus, just for the option of
returning a Tour Guide.
Just putting Tour Guide back in the deck, 'cause it's so powerful.
So it's back to Carlos, who gets to return his number 49 back to his extra deck. He draws for his turn, and he finds a trap card, which is not as fortunate as he thinks it is.
It's Fiendish Chain.
It's a Fiendish Chain, yeah. Well, not a horrible trap card, because even if Leo finds something big and Carlos can't stop it for the time being, it can afterwards be stopped by Fiendish Chain again.
Yeah, we still have the trap stun to...
But first, Leo has to make it that far, because I'm not 100% convinced this is going to happen.
It's actually a very... when you look at the field in a vacuum, this is actually very close, despite the life points being... looking like Carlos is a little bit in danger. This is a very close game.
Yeah. There we saw the sleight of hand with the
the tour guide flying out saying,
"Tour guide is like, I want to come back,
guys. Summon me,
yeah,
please.
I want to decide this game, please." Right. So yeah, Carlos has all the options. Well, he's well aware of what they are. Once again, goes for his extra deck. No surprise there. His Dante is going to switch to attack position in just a second.
It's Alucard, so he's going to safely... they're making his Fiendish Chain.
Yeah. He's so far ahead, he doesn't really lose anything by doing that. And suddenly his Fiendish Chain is...
It becomes a perfect answer,
yeah,
as opposed to...
becoming the perfect answer. And Leo is really standing with his back against the wall right here. Even if he draws a Super Polymerization, a card we talked about earlier that we thought would be a difference maker, could be a difference maker, that would be too little too late at this stage.
Yeah, he has no cards in hand, so if he draws it, he's essentially going to face down so much damage. So it's actually becoming a blank card because he's so low on resources.
Right. So Carlos attacking with both of his monsters.
But yeah, he's going to gain resources from the Mathematician and the Serpent, so Super Polymerization.
Oh, right, yes.
He has actually left a light and a dark monster on his own side of the field, which could come back and backfire spectacularly for Carlos.
So he has a face-down card, which is the Fiendish Chain that we mentioned. Leo is looking through his deck. That is the... Which effect is triggering?
Black Dragon Collar Serpent is being added to his hand for the effect of White Dragon Wyver Burster.
Ah, okay.
And
So
Mathematician draw.
So Leo has actually a lot more options than we thought at first. And now he's drawing for his turn, and this is going to be... well, we see his hand, right?
Yeah,
Well, we got the
his hand up.
Black Dragon. He's got one more card in hand, which is Sinister Shadow Games. Not that useful, is it?
No, he has no monsters face down, and we're getting in pretty late in the game. I don't know how many...
Yeah, the timeout was actually called in the other matches, so this match is also probably in time. We got a dice on the table. I'm not sure if the one indicates... Ooh, that's a Vanity's Emptiness. That is... Is it doing anything here?
It's...
I don't think it is.
It's getting late. It's very late in the game.
So Leo wants to attack now. If Carlos really feels threatened, he just flips the Fiendish Chain. He does just that. Leo is now left with two not that useful cards, a Vanity's Emptiness and the Sinister Shadow Games, and that is nothing that can stop an attack.
The question is, does he want to play the other Tour Guide in his hand, or does he take the turn off to get Rank Up Magic Astral Force from the graveyard instead of drawing?
How about summoning the Grand Mole?
Well, if he uses the Rank Up Magic Astral Force, he can still do that if he wants to. Or
Right.
he can play Ryza over the top of one of his Xyz monsters. He's almost certainly going to use Alucard to take out one of those back row cards.
Yes. So doesn't Ryza basically... The thing is, like, Leo's got nothing. Doesn't Ryza decide the game right here?
Actually, yeah, because he's...
Leo is going to miss another turn.
Yeah, and he's going to get the Serpent again if he does this.
And Leo's got no way to interact with a Monarch on the field.
Yep, he's got Sinister Shadow Games, Vanity's Emptiness. So if...
Ryza would be perfect right here. So Alucard is taking down one of the face downs.
Yeah, if he hits the Vanities here, this is really bad, because he can chain the Vanities to the Rank Up Magic Astral Force. It's Sinister Shadow Games which is being chained. So actually the Vanity's Emptiness is going to block the Astral Force from going off.
Ah, there we go.
Unless Ryza's summoned first to put the Vanities back on top of the deck, which would be, well, when the Serpent gets destroyed.
Now Carlos comes up with a third option that we didn't even consider, does it?
Yeah, he's going to use the Ryza now.
Yes. And Leo is, yeah, well, he's nodding, but at the same time, he's disagreeing with that play. He's like, I don't want that to happen to me.
It's going to create... he's going to put the Vanity's Emptiness back on top of his deck.
So now he's safe to use the Rank Up Magic. That is a huge deal. So Dante is going to leave the field. Or, well, stay on the field as an Exceed material. But we're not 100% sure where Exceed material exists. Somewhere in between the field and the graveyard, I'm told.
It's there. Okay, so he's going to deny his opponent the search effect and get Dante's effect.
Yeah, now the question is that enough?
That's 4,900 damage right there.
So he's just 1-5 short. And Leo is already extending the hand. He's like, no, I got nothing. And that concludes the top 16. Like, Leo knows there's nothing I can do. I'm going to draw into Vanity's Emptiness once again.
And then just be hit straight
in the face. You got
face.
everything on the field already, so, like, there's nothing I can do. And that means game, set, and match for Carlos Perez, who won the first game.
Excellent play by Carlos, playing very aggressive on his Burning Abyss,
Yes.
Dante effect activations, and
So
that's how I prefer to play the deck as opposed to the more conservative.
yeah, well, we have seen that quite a few times. People were like, "Oh, Burning Abyss, I don't know, it can't beat Shaddoll," and this is the way to go if you want to beat it.
Yeah, he's the main deck Ryza it was an absolute all-star, even
It
from
was just
the
a
very
one-off,
first round.
but it made a big difference in all the games we saw it. I mean, he probably introduced another copy from his side. No, he was not playing one in the side deck. That was Leo who did that, yes. Oh, he played 2 Rises in the main deck. So actually he's very convinced of the use of that card.
Yeah, he was 100% sold on it when he came in this weekend. He was like, this card answers my problems.
Right.
And you could tell even by his going tour guide into Graph how he was more planning to aggressively use these monsters when a lot of people were electing to get Skarm, sending the Skarm to the graveyard, only sending the top 1 card from their deck. In one case, we even had somebody refuse to use, I can't remember which round it was, refused to use the effective Graph because they didn't want to take tour guide targets out of their deck.
Yes, yes, when he only sent 1 to the graveyard, right?
And Carlos there just showing he was more than happy to keep like forcing all of these cards out of his deck and playing it. And against Shadol, that was definitely the correct play style for that match.
Seemed like a very good choice. Also, against other decks, I mean, yes, you are leaving yourself a little bit more vulnerable when you're coming out strong, but if your opponent doesn't have an immediate answer, don't you just overwhelm him before he can find a way out?
Pretty much, and when you're doing things with the Graph as well, it's you can string together combos to put 3 Dantes, and that's 7,500 damage.
Right, right.
Very, you can play so aggressively with the deck if you want to. It's a question of whether or not people choose to do that.
Right, so Burning Abyss is still a thing. In case you've been a fan of the deck, I hope that Carlos Perez was partly restoring your faith in it. Part of the reason, just to sum this up once again, Ryza in the main deck made a big difference, and in a very teched out side deck, I must say, with the DD Crow, we actually never saw, but it was giving him some backup in case his plan A failed. And also, the other side deck of Carlos, I think it's really something to consider. I mean, with the Maxi, the Thunder King Ryo, Nobleman of Crossout, Pulling the Rug, Full House, Karma Cut, Needle Sealing, Chain Disappearance, it seems like very, very flexible and adaptive to whatever your opponent's got.
For these main decks in the tournament right now, though, it's a very solid side deck, and he played excellently.
Yes.
He knew exactly how to play Burning Abyss, and that's why he's going to the top 8. And well, that's not to say that Leo didn't know how to play Shadol.
No, not at all.
He played extremely well, but being caught off guard by cards like Neo Spacian and Grand Mole.
Yes.
And the Ryza 2 games in a row causing the
I mean,
the
there's only so much you can do. When you summon your Deckmaster to the field and have him fight for you, and it still is not enough, then your opponent must have done something right.
Yeah, it's just the fact that Carlos in his tech was prepared for that one situation, because anything else in his deck actually doesn't answer apart from Torrential Tribute, which I can see here, he doesn't really have another answer for the Leo.
Right. So in the top 32, actually we have been non-stop broadcasting for you guys, so we're not even aware of who's made it to the top 8 at this point in time. But we're going to fill you in, and if you can't wait, then just head over to the written coverage where we have all the updates as soon as they come in. So as we announced on the stream, time had been called quite a while ago, like 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I believe so.
So there's a very good chance that all the other top 16 matches have already been concluded by this point, and we can actually head into the top 8 in, like, well, I would say next to no time. However, there are the top 8 profiles that we need to take care of first, top 8 photos as well, something that is one of the biggest challenges for some of our players in the room. I've had this. It's like when they ask me at the end of the day, so what's the hardest part of doing written coverage? I'm like, taking a good photo of some of these Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, it's just a smile. It's so many people trying to look. Try too hard to look cool.
Yeah.
You can't get a good photo, and you're like, oh, come on, you've just made like top 8. Smile.
It's
like
a
great day.
It's a big deal. I mean, I can get it when you're like in the finals and it's a
staying
very
in the
close
zone,
game, and then suddenly you're losing, and then, I mean, if you're runner up, you get an iPad. iPad is pretty good.
Yeah, a pretty good consolation prize.
Yeah, but still you're sitting there, you're like, I would have liked to win that one. But worse, and which I really can't understand, and we've had that quite a few times, is somebody who's winning the tournament, he's like, yeah, I won. Like, that is not a winner pose.
No.
I'm sorry, but yeah, I hope we don't see that today. But we got quite a few guys in competition. I don't know if they're still in the tournament, but Umut Serin, you will never find a picture of Umut where he is not smiling. It's just impossible to take it. And this weekend, with his mohawk working for him, I think that would be a great winner photo. But once again, let's not get ahead of...
We don't even know if he's made it through.
Yeah, other guys that made it to the top 32, we're not sure if they made it to the top 16 or the top 8 either. But Christos Morikis, a player we had on the stream in the first day, went all the way. He's he went all the way to the top 32. Question is, did he make it to the top 8? Piranowski playing once again. Infernity is in there. Sascha Fabian, player from Germany, also very successful. Had quite a few back-to-back top 32s, but rarely top 8s.
Yeah.
So he's like, you're flying under the radar, even when you're making top 32 or top 64, when you're not making it to the top 8 because you're not in the top 8 profiles.
Yeah. So sometimes
this
you get these players that are actually, you see them very, very often, and you know they're very good. This is why we've had so many great matches this weekend, is Oliver's experience with these players. Many of the people we featured, even losing, making it into the top cut. We weren't just choosing random decks to mess with you.
Yes.
The 52 card Shadol deck was a real